Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And it is Tuesday, and it is a beautiful day. I hope that you are on your way to where you're going with an open mind about how you can be happy 88% of the time, because that's what this show is about. In balance, in contrast to all of the bad news that seems to inundate us and abdicate our own choices in what we pay attention to. So you do have a choice. You do not have to start your morning scrolling through all of the bad news. Yes, it is reality, but good news is also reality. So that's the rose-colored Kool-Aid that I'm trying to get you to have a gulp of today. And for those of you who've stumbled on me, I am Dr. Marissa, your host, as well as your docent to Choose Happiness. I'm an organizational psychologist by education, but by life experience. I'm a person who knows that pain in life is mandatory, but suffering is optional. So every day we have a variety and a host of things to chat about that balance out maybe the complaining, the worrying, the fear, the depression that you may be feeling these days, especially during the pandemic as we're coming out of it. I'm focused and heaven bent on bringing you some good news and highlighting people who are doing great things in our communities, politicians. I do some on-location beat reporting, and so it's a great feed into my show because I pick those stories that I want to cover instead of being sent to, I don't have to go to the, if it bleeds, it leads kinds of story. And today is no different. In the third segment, I will be bringing you information about the Child Tax Credit, which is an important development. It passes July 15th when families who are at the brink of a lot of homelessness, a lot of inability to care for their children, and there was a rally celebrating the Child Tax Credit with lots of politicians as well as individuals who are in nonprofits who are here to help and serve the community that most needs them. So that's the third segment of today's show, the second half. So please stay tuned for that. I'm also going to teach you some new practical applications of how we can value diversity with language justice, something I've never heard before, in the second segment, and put the moose on the table of why it's so difficult sometimes to value diversity. And I will be talking about socialism as well as helping others and the difficulty all of that brings our country. So we're putting a lot of moose on the table. That's my Canadian version of the elephant in the room. So stay tuned for that. But we're going to start today with a question that I saw on my Facebook feed. What is your advice to the person secretly crushing on you? So this is a relationship question. I think that it's nice that you are concerned about that person in a kind way. At least that's the way I'm going to take it. And I'm pretty sure that most of us have had some experience like this where you think you know that someone admires you. And what do you do about that? And I'm assuming what's implied in the question, Jaquetta, is that you don't return those feelings. So what do you do? Do you say something, not say something? So my first caution, or the first thing that comes to my mind is sometimes, and I'm sure this is not part of this situation, but I know I go to MSU University sometimes, make Shiitake up University, and I will create a situation that's not even a situation because I have such an active imagination. So the first thing I would do is just to check my assumptions. And obviously, you hear me all the time, put the moose on the table. I believe that making things clear, clarity is a good thing. So in the kindest possible way, I would ask the person for some time to clarify something and first check. I have the feeling that from your comments or your hearts or your flowers, emojis, or whatever it is, I'm kind of feeling like you might have some feelings for me, and I want to take care of those feelings and just thank you. I'm super flattered, but I don't feel that same way for you. And to me, that is just letting them down easily. I'm all about matching. Relationships for me are all about matching, so that when things don't work out, it's not he's a hole, she's a biatch, they made promises, all of that. It's all about matching. And in the first 3 months, you really don't know if you match because everybody's showing their best side. But after 3 months, this is my pregnancy model of relationships, we go into the second trimester when we see people. But secret crushes, probably you don't even get into the first trimester because you already know that you don't have some feelings for that person for whatever reason. Now, caveat again, sometimes our feelings are wrong. And sometimes you initially don't have an attraction. And I've heard of people, it has never happened to me, but it has happened to some people that I know that I love who, for example, my bonus mom and dad just celebrated 71-year anniversary, wedding anniversary. And when they first met, my mom did not like my dad at all. They were forced into a double date and she did not like him at all. And then over time, they got to know each other. So that would be my advice to you, Jaquetta, before you have the letdown conversation, is to take a look at where you are. Because, and here's the last part of the advice, sometimes law of attraction is at work. So if you're attracting someone to you, it's usually like versus like. So there's something in there worth looking at. Now, if you're a person that knows exactly what you want and they don't follow all the criteria and you don't want to even waste 1 or 2 or 3 dates, which Dr. Pat Allen always yells at me about, it's called duty dating, then let them down easy. But it might be interesting to get to know that person a little bit as friends and then see what happens. All right, so that's my advice for you, Jaquetta. Hopefully I answered any of your potential questions for that. If you haven't, post another one and I'll go at it again. And I'm Dr. Marissa. You're tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. We'll be right back with more. And welcome back. You are tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And we're going to talk right now about an area that I get to consult in as an organizational psychologist, which is called valuing diversity. And no thanks to the horrific death of George Floyd and what happened on Capitol Hill and what's happening with Asian hate crimes, we are at an all-time difficult season for violence, not nonviolence, for violence, not just in action, but in thought, and the difficulty, the real difficulty it has been and continues to be in valuing diversity. So I thought I would put the moose on the table about a number of things just to have us think about it, because I'm all about balance. And the only way we're going to move through this and not go into, in my opinion, which is, everybody has a right to my opinion, only if you're tuned in. So I wanted just to spend a very important segment of my show talking about the whole concept and maybe the little bit of history of diversity in America. So in order to do so, I want you to take a listen to this little mini interview soundbite I had, which more from that event is going to be in the second half of the show. But I heard a new term that really made me want to talk about this so that we can all see, if those of us who are on the fence or those of us who didn't go to Capitol Hill, but understand the difficulty in language, in different languages in America, that we could talk about that in a kind and humankind way. Take a listen. All right, so here we go. There have been those who have said, and past administration included, if you don't like it here in America, go home. Go back to where you came from. I've also heard, when I was blessed to be one of the pioneering value and diversity consultants here in Los Angeles County, I worked with First Interstate Bank, which is no longer a bank, but got split into many of the major banks that you know about. And I got to work with the executive C-suite level. And I remember the first meeting, I think we were up in Fremont, and I walked in and everybody's arms were folded and crossed and not really receptive. And one of the gentlemen, well, there were only men in the room, different time, but still, we got a long way to go. But that's another topic on women in leadership levels in the organization. But the point of having an ATM with 2 languages was brought on the table. And I'll never forget the outburst of one of the senior leaders in the room about, I don't understand, English is our language in America. And when you come to America, like Rome, do as the Romans do. So there's a saying, if you're millennial and you're listening, or Gen Z and don't know what I'm talking about, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do is a colloquialism or an idiom that says, if you move somewhere, i.e., if you move to America, learn the language, and the language is English. And if the language is English, don't even have an accent, because I can't understand you. And that intolerant attitude about language is just the surface of underlying prejudice, racism, injustice, inequity, and why we had Capitol Hill. So I'm here to try to balance out some of these things. So as a psychologist, as an organizational psychologist, we have this phenomena called the backyard effect. And the backyard effect says we like to see differences amongst races, amongst heritage when we travel, right? When you go on vacation, you don't expect people to speak English, although there's articles about American tourists who have that expectation. Not going there again, too long of a story, but there's this acceptance when you're traveling that other cultures can be other cultures. But there's this, I don't even know what the word is. What's the word I want? Intolerance. It's more than intolerance. it's this abhorrence, that's the word, abhorrence, that in maybe 30 years ago in the workplace, it still existed where it's English only. And if you're going to speak, you can't go home and speak your native tongue. Don't do it at work. So the good news is we've come a long way. Virginia Slims, another reference to another time, but I'm ageless. So this intolerance is now better, but for some people it has gone underground. There's still that BS belief system that if you're in America, you have to speak English. And if you don't speak English, go back to the country that you came from. And that attitude doesn't work. As we've seen, it does not work. So those of you who maybe have grandparents who think this way, or parents still who think this way, I'm not talking about people who've made up their minds and that's the way they believe. That population, I cannot reason with. There's no logic is illogical. I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking to people who maybe are in the middle of that. Maybe your kids totally get this already. They value diversity. They, do not say things like Oriental or retarded, because those are disrespectful terms. You should know better. Mom, I can't believe you just said that. So maybe you're the ones in the middle who think that they are not racist and valuing diversity, but still are being influenced or hear the generation before who carry these very strong ideals around diversity that are not valuing. So what do? Well, if I put the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of the elephant in the room, I was born in Canada, I would say that the intolerance and the hatred and the hostility that is that attitude, don't like it here, go back, is fueling the demise of our country. That attitude is one of the roots of the reason why we are still at war with each other. That United States is somewhat of an oxymoron of a statement. That's not the America that I chose to become, an American after 9/11, went through the whole naturalizing and chose to become a citizen because I wanted to be part of a country that truly was, Statue of Liberty, come, all ye heavy laden, downtrodden, here's the land of opportunity. Here's a place where you are not bound by the monarchy or by your, parts of your heritage that you are not, you don't want to continue. My parents came from China, they wanted a new land of opportunity. So the fact that we have so many different cultures and languages spoken in LA, instead of seeing that as an issue or a problem or something to complain about or shake your head about, or you want to move to middle America because you don't want to deal with diversity. That's what I'm hoping, that people will understand the magnified joy that comes from having differences. The research is so clear in business that homogenous teams are outperformed by teams filled with diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of heritage, diversity of race, diversity of gender. That's very clear. However, the conflict is higher. So, in order for us to begin to value diversity, one, if you're saying things like go back to where you're coming from, knock it off. Please just knock it off. This is not your country. If you want to go to battle with me, I'm going to tell you that you took land from Native Americans. So this is really not even your original lands. Sorry, put the moose on the table. So if we want to embrace America as truly the United States, the united humankind, then we have to get to that point where we stop saying go back where you came from and figure out how to work through those natural differences that come when we have different BS belief systems. And the first thing in the practical application would be maybe you learn how to say hello and thank you in other languages. And I'll teach you one right now. Xie xie is how you say thank you in Mandarin. It's not S-H-I-T, it's S-H-E-A. So xie xie, right? I've learned a little bit, tiny bit of Spanish because of my daughters have learned it, and I want to embrace diversity myself. So that's your challenge. Learn hello and how are you and thank you, so that next week you'll be fluent in at least 8's too many, right? So 3, how's that? 3. I'll give you another hint. Arigato is in Japanese, thank you, or Dankeschön is in German, and merci bien is in French. So there you go. I just did your homework for you. Just play that over and over and see if you can practice it on someone, all right? We'll be right back with more of Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. We'll be right back with the Child Tax Credit. And welcome back. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And it is Tuesday, and I have a delightful segment next for you here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, all the major platforms, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Tiki Live, Audible, Stitcher, Spotify, and of course, my YouTube channel, which free subscribe and you'll get all my 481 consecutive shows in the last 9 years. So I'm happy to be here. I wanted to share with you a very important event that I got to attend and get educated on the child tax credit that is coming to California on July 15th. So take a listen, and we'll chat about it after. Good morning, this is Dr. Marissa on location. Dr. Marissa reporting live with more good news about what's good with the world, what's good with people, and what's good with politicians and organizations that are helping shine some light on areas of temporary darkness.
This has been a year like no other. We know that so many families have suffered, and that's why our top priority in Congress on the most major step ever in fighting child poverty in this country, the child tax credit.
That's right. Woo! Good round of applause.
Good morning, this is Dr. Marissa reporting live from a rally that is going to be so important in helping with child poverty. Could you introduce yourself and tell me why this is important and why you're here?
I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I'm here because I want to make sure we get the word out that the child tax credit is available starting next week. And what we did in Congress is to greatly expand the amount that families with children would get, but also to make it a monthly payment so that you don't have to wait until the next tax year to get it.
Beautiful. And why is this so important right now?
It is so important because so many people are out of work, are out of food, who are struggling to pay the rent. I mean, basic expenses are difficult to meet because of COVID-19.
Yes.
I mean, our whole system has been shut down. We're slowly opening, but look, we need to help people recover.
Absolutely, and I overheard you speaking to Fox about how this is going to impact poverty in LA. It's going to cut it in half, did you say?
This is going to cut child poverty in half, which is really stunning. This is really transformational
Yes.
for our country.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And while I have you, can you give a message about Asian hate, the hate crimes that are going on, since we're both Asian, colorful women here? What do you want to say to my listeners, anybody in LA, anybody in the States about Asian hate right now?
We have had a horrific year that was aggravated by Donald Trump using the terms China virus, Kung flu, and Wuhan virus. And he wrongfully was pointing the finger at China as the cause of it all, and therefore people took it out on Asian Americans. So far there have been over 7,500 anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents. This must stop.
Yes.
But we can only do it if we all work together. So I urge all of you, stop Asian hate.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your term. Anything I can do to support you, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah. I'm reporting live from a rally that's going to cut poverty for families and kids in half. And I have another great organizer here, an example of how politicians are helping the community. Who are you and what are you doing here?
So I'm Congressman Jimmy Gomez, and I represent Boa Heights in the U.S. House of Representatives. And we're here to talk about the new expanded monthly child tax credit. That means that everybody under 150,000 of a couple, for every child, they'll be getting $250 to $300 a month through the end of the year, and then the lump sum. And this is transformative. It's going to reduce child poverty in the country by 45%.
Wow.
It's going to make sure that people have enough money to have a roof over their head and food on the table. So it is a big deal, but now we need to make it permanent. It's only through this year that we have the funding, so now we're going to try to get it done for the foreseeable future. So that's our next fight.
And so people should come down to the park today?
Yeah, people should come down to the park today, or go to my website at rep.house.jimmygomez.com, and that's how they can go and make sure that they can get more information.
We got a photo bomber again.
I know, that's good.
Hi, Miguel Santiago. I'm back here with Jimmy Gomez, congressional member. Everybody go, yay, Jimmy! Here, everybody's saying yay. Look around, yay!
He's a hype man.
This is his one-man PR right,
right.
here. Thank you so much.
In addition, Miguel serves as chair of the Assembly Select Committee on Los Angeles County homelessness, where he is focused on finding urgent solutions to end homelessness. He also sits on 4 other key Assembly committees: health, higher education, public safety, and utilities and energy.
For years, making it difficult for working families. The Biden administration came in and they kicked in right away with the American Rescue Plan. And we had the highest unemployment rates. And today, the recovery is not equal across California, because here, our communities keep getting left behind. But that's the bad news. Que ahora estamos celebrando las consecuencias de las elecciones. Y es sumamente importante porque ahora estamos celebrando que nuestras familias van a recibir un cheque para cada niño en nuestra comunidad para batallar la pobreza que estamos Back with the greatest smile on earth, my friend.
I love it. Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah, and I have a repeat guest. We actually got a soundbite before. He loves my mask.
I couldn't get away. I came back for more.
So who are you and what are you doing here?
Miguel Santiago, Assemblymember, 53rd District, here with my friend.
And Dr. Marissa wants to know, why are you doing this? Why is this so important?
Sure. Well, this is absolutely critical, and I'm going to tell you why, because it's the difference between feeding a family and not feeding a family. And this is why we're here. When you start adding up the government services that are out there, what we have fought for, between the child tax credit that we fought for extremely hard and is now being delivered to our households on July 15th, the Cali ITC, the stimulus payments that we've done now to families, the making sure that EDD is delivering its payments, and you start taking a look at all the different government services. This is the difference between lifting out of poverty or not, and that's what we're fighting for.
Absolutely. So this tax credit actually has been passed, correct?
Correct.
And the moms that have,
And the dads.
and the dads. Okay. So I'm going to put the moose on the table because there are people out there that will say, how can people who are not paying taxes get a tax credit?
Well, they do. Last time I checked, anybody who goes to the store and purchases any item pays taxes at any store.
Okay, so this is something, though, that is critical in order to fight poverty, fight homelessness that is here in our city. Yes. And what is your message to people in LA?
Sure. Sign up for the services. Help is on the way. Elections have consequences, and the Biden administration is delivering through on its commitment. So get ready, get set, and get registered for all these services that we've got. You heard it here first,
right.
my
Yes.
friend.
And so wait,
I'm
did
waiting.
we do this last time? The peace in, peace out.
That's right.
Ready? Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks. I have two wonderful women here in front of me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell me what they're doing, why they're here, and why this rally and gathering is important. All right, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nancy Berlin, and I'm with the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And we're here today to promote the Child Tax Credit, which is part of the American Rescue Plan that Congress passed. It expands the Child Tax Credit. A lot of people are already familiar with that. This expands it so that any family with kids can get this benefit whether or not they pay taxes, whether or not they owe taxes, as long as they register for it. And it's a really cool benefit. It gives families $250 up to $250 to $300 every month for each of their children. So you can do the math and figure that out.
Yes, and this is especially important for families who don't make a lot of money, correct? We're talking about people who are probably the worst affected by COVID.
That's right. That's what's so cool about the expanded child tax credit. Before you had to be earning money and paying taxes. Now, whether or not you owe taxes, if you're very low income or no income, you can still get this tax credit.
Okay.
And that's especially important right now in the pandemic when so many families have lost work and lost income.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room. There's going to be some people who criticize this and say, this is not fair, I pay taxes, why should someone get money when they don't pay taxes? And your response to that?
People who don't pay taxes still work. Everybody works who raises children. I'm a mom, and it's a lot of work to raise your children. We like to say that every mother is a working mother because you spend hours and hours. It's a 24/7 job that pays less than the minimum wage.
Yes, and I think that's the point that I really wanted to highlight is, we enjoy everything for very affordable prices, largely due to people who work for under minimum wage.
Absolutely. There's a lot of work that the rest of us are subsidizing. It's not really true that we don't give back.
Yes.
And, I actually think Madison is a perfect example of that, of a mom raising her kids, trying to work, and it's not easy.
Yes. And on that segue, let's meet Madison. I'll let you pass the microphone. Hi. What's your name and what are you doing here?
My name's Madison Williams. I'm here to speak out, just kind of share my story a little bit to let everybody know, because like Nancy's talking about, there's moms, there's this, I'm a mom.
Yeah.
I'm a mom with 2 kids who was very much so affected by the pandemic, and even before the pandemic had so many hardships, so the pandemic made it worse. So I would be one of those non-working moms trying to
still provide for your kids,
put my foot back on the ground from everything that happened. And so I'm just here to explain what this extra tax credit would do for a family like me. I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Okay.
My 13-year-old has mental health issues. Her medical coverage doesn't always pay for all her therapy. I pay for that out of pocket. I started my own business without the pandemic, I was in about 4 schools and 2 parks. Pandemic shut that down. So I lost my dance studio. And I have like my gymnastic equipment in my car, or sometimes tied to my car.
Oh dear.
And I'm running it in the park. I call myself a traveling coach now.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I'm just here to just let everybody know. Sometimes you got to put a face to the name, and everybody knows the statistic of single mom of 2 or more, and but they really don't know a person or what that person is really doing. They just see from the outside, oh, she's just taking free money. Like, no, it's
right. And that's the other moose on the table. We're talking about moms who are trying to do the right thing, to work, and because of COVID, they can't work, but they still have mouths to feed and kids to take care of. Yeah. So I'm really grateful that you took a minute to chat with me. I wish you the best. I'm glad. I think some politicians are coming. So the tax credit is, and I'll come back to you, the tax credit is now for sure.
This expanded tax credit is now law, and why we're doing this event today is the payments to families start to roll out in monthly checks this month.
Okay.
And so we're really excited, and we want to make sure that every family who is eligible for it knows and signs up, so people will be able to sign up here today in the park.
Wonderful. And for family, another moose on the table, for families that are afraid of the immigration implications, talk to me about that.
We are concerned about some of the immigration issues, and we actually hoped we would get a better law, but what we have is if you have an ITIN number and if your kids have social security numbers, you can absolutely sign up for this benefit with no risk.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Woods, and I am with Income Movement, and we are a grassroots movement advocating for economic justice, and we champion universal basic income. And so we're here today helping to spread the word about the CTC and help people know that it is a basic income for families and how to access it and take part in this historic moment that our country is going through with its adoption of this CTC.
Absolutely. And I have a habit of putting the moose on the table, which is my version of talking about the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And so there's people who are criticizing, we're oh my God, we're becoming a socialist country, and what are we going to do? So speak to that for a second.
Yeah, so we want to provide what is called a basic income, but this provides a floor for people to stand on. We've come into a space with our capitalistic society that has made it really untenable for individuals to find a foothold, and those bootstraps are just not pulling people up any longer, and we need to give them a hand, and this basic income is a way to do that. It was championed by Martin Luther King, Thomas Paine, many others who want to help our society thrive and grow, and the individuals within it be able to use what's inside themselves and thrive and grow. And right now, we need money to do that, and a basic income would provide people with that opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a Good morning, this is Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah. I'm reporting live from a park in Los Angeles with a rally that's about to start with one of the MCs here for this event, and I wanted you to meet her and her kids. So tell me why you're here and what you are looking for.
Hi, well, we're here because we are in support of the child tax credit. We want to make sure that every child receives this money in order for them to have a better quality life. We are also here because we're pushing for this tax credit not to end in December like it's supposed to, but to be something permanent, because we know that even before the pandemic, a lot of our families were struggling. So we want to make sure that while we're having this pandemic and while people are still struggling financially, that they're able to support their child with putting food on their tables, with buying the necessary materials for them to have a good education. And this is something that we strongly believe in the LA Tenants Union and Unión de Vecinos and the Poor People's Campaign.
Beautiful. And why is this so important for working moms?
This is very important for working moms, especially single mothers. This is something that we feel that during this pandemic, the people that have been impacted the most have been women. Women have lost their jobs at greater rates than any other people in this process, especially women of color. And we feel that they need support in supporting their children. A lot of these women have to stay home and not work because the schools are closed. So we want to make sure that mothers are getting all the support needed. So please, if you haven't filed taxes, you can go anywhere where you can file taxes and do so. You don't have to claim, if you haven't received any money, you don't have to claim anything. But you do need to do that filing in order for you to receive the child tax credit.
So today people can come to the park. Tell us what time.
So we're here at Hollenbeck Park. We're going to be here till 1. Please come. Centro de Ayuda is helping folks with filing your income taxes. A lot of undocumented communities that are scared about this. All you have to do is get your IT number. If you haven't gotten your IT number, then you can just file to get one, and then you can make your taxes, and then you can claim your children.
Beautiful. And that's from what time? Can you repeat that?
From now till 1 p.m. Sí, vamos a estar aquí en el parque de Hollenbeck en Boyle Heights desde la 1 de la tarde hasta la 1 de la tarde. Por favor, vengan y apoyen. También el centro de ayuda está ayudando con esto. Si usted no puede venir al parque, haga Google Centro de Ayuda aquí en Boyle Heights y ellos pues, pueden llamarles para que puedan hacer una cita con ellos y puedan ir a recibir la ayuda.
Beautiful. Gracias.
Gracias.
And let's get the kids in here. Hi. What's your name?
My name is Jimena.
Jimenez. And you know what your mom's doing right now? No? Well, that's beautiful. All right.
And wasn't that great? I just love seeing things that help balance out the inequity of what is happening in our country, in our state, in our communities. So for those of you who watched my first film, the new PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities, may have had a little reaction to one of the lines from that film about socialism. And certainly the child tax credit is causing quite the reaction. And so I thought it would be useful for me to put the moose on the table again to talk about the balance that is required when we talk about helping people. So first of all, there's a BS that America is the land of opportunity and that everybody, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what you were, how you were raised, doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what gender you are. Everybody has an equal opportunity to do well. And that is BS. That's a belief system that continues to have people who have a lot of money, former president included, be able to pay very little taxes, and hardworking, less than minimum wage families. It's interesting how those very large companies that are amusement parks who spend glorious amounts of money on marketing and charge exorbitant funds for the ability to be able to go on their rides and see their characters. Notice how I'm not saying which ones. They're all like this. I mean, you go to Anaheim and the majority of the people working there, as well as the majority of the people that are working, picking fruits and vegetables in California for very little money, the people that are doing the jobs that many Americans who are naturalized, who are citizens, don't want to do, they do not have equal access. You do not have equal access when you're born and raised in a motel room because your parents scrape by working 3 jobs, one of which is at these expensive amusement parks, and have no money to pay for an apartment, and you live in a motel that doesn't even have a kitchen. So when you grow up like that, that's not equal opportunity. You don't know as a child how to raise yourself up out of that. All you know is that maybe there's a gang nearby who's offering you more money. You don't have equal access. And if you're a working mom trying to do 3 jobs, like the example of the interview that I had, it was bad enough before COVID, but then with COVID, it's even worse. And we shake our heads at all the homelessness. The homelessness is because people don't have enough money to afford a home. Yes, there are people who take advantage of the system. Yes, there are people who are mentally ill who should not be there. But there are real people who work hard who cannot make ends meet. And that's what this child tax credit is for. And do not tell me that they should stop having children, or I'm gonna get my wet noodle out. The reality is, and there's a great video, I'm gonna have to look for it. They had people line up and say, if you were born in a single parent home, take 1 step forward. If you were born in a rural or in poverty, take a step forward. As you step forward, the people who didn't step forward, they're the ones that have equal access. They're the ones that have the opportunity that the American dream promises. But the more things that separate you from equal access, the harder it is. And that's why helping socialism is not communism. It is not easy. It is not equal. It is not just a matter of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. So I'm hoping that you hear that message, that if you have food in your fridge and a roof over your head and money in your wallet, know that you are amongst the top 3% in the world for wealth, and be grateful for that. And if you're complaining that you have nothing to do or you hate your job, stay at your job, use the money, be inventive, join an organization that is helping others. There's so many nonprofits now. I have a nonprofit now. It's so wonderful that one of the hashtag COVID silver linings is that there's more of a helping hand. So I'm hoping that this particular show has caused you to balance your BS, your belief systems around language differences, around heritage differences, around community differences. We don't want bad parts of town. We want good parts of town everywhere, but it's going to take all of us, first of all, getting off our high horse and telling people to go back to their country. All right. How's that for Dr. Marissa's little bit of tough love when it comes to valuing diversity? I hope you've enjoyed today's show. Remember, it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Dr. Marissa reporting live on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA. Have the best day ever.